Humans are the worst thing that have ever happened to this planet. Point blank.
For diversity or what for what
How?
purpose?
For diversity, in terms of biodiversity, meaning the human race, cause mass extinctions.
I don't want to like jump in here,
You should.
but like, if I'm gonna play devil's advocate, I would say the meteor that killed dinosaurs probably made more things extinct than we have so far.
That's not even necessarily true.
What?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think it's. I
That
mean,
can't be real.
We're getting close to that.
we've done quite a bit.
We
Because
Furthermore,
I think that when people think about human extinction, they only think about the recent stuff we've been doing.
Mhm.
But I don't think you've realized that even 100,000 years ago, when humans were just killing like woolly mammoths and stuff, in a book I read, whenever humans conquered a new continent, 90% of the species there went extinct.
have you ever read *Sapiens*?
Yes.
Is
You
that
read
what you're
*Sapiens*?
talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm having this. That's why, yeah.
Shit, sorry.
what?
Yeah, no, humans for the entire history of the Homo sapiens species have been causing mass extinctions.
Even before like the last 10,000 years.
You're telling me that like little like monkey dudes in tribes.
Yes.
Well, they weren't
Where-
like
Only developed
hundreds of thousands of years ago. So we're talking,
about 200,000, 300,000 years ago.
yeah, like we're talking not necessarily like monkey,
No, okay.
but like,
They're kind of developed as a Homo
yeah,
sapien,
like
but
they have thumbs.
they don't,
Yeah.
but they don't have civilization.
They
They're
don't.
just hunter-gatherers.
They're
But
little,
as they begin civilization, that's when
It
it's
gets
the
even
worst.
Yeah.
well, yeah, that
Because
makes
here's the
sense.
thing. You think there's a lot of animals that exist today, right? 90% of them are domesticated.
Mhm.
Of in total, yeah,
And most animals are just living on a farm somewhere in a 2x2 cubicle.
yeah, I believe that.
Which is sad, especially when you think of, because like the meat packing industry,
It's kind of fun.
fish, all of it, right? But humans, scientifically speaking, you want to talk about viruses, right? And what viruses do, they infect your cell and they go into the bacteria or they blow it up, right? Humans are the biggest disease that we've ever seen in the planet. Simply talking extinctions, talking pollution, which is a whole other conversation, right? So naturally, the human species has been a net negative for the world. That's a very pessimistic view. That's the scientific one.
Okay,
I feel very enlightened.
well, I just feel like it can't be like 100% true. Like, sure, it is true, but like I'm pretty sure there was a time like millions and millions of years ago where basically there was like trees, but there was nothing that was eating the trees, and then they would all die, and there was just like a bunch of dead trees, and then something evolved and it started eating the trees or something. So then all like the carbon dioxide that was in those trees got released, and then like caused it. Well, that was one mass extinction.
Well, so
There've been many mass extinctions.
yeah, but I think that's a good point. Evolutionarily speaking, and this is a very scientific conversation.
That caused a lot of pollution.
Yeah, exactly.
Like carbon
Evolutionarily
dioxide.
speaking, the world has a balance, right? There's competition, there's survival of the fittest. This one becomes more fit, so it survives and it creates a new species, right?
Mhm.
And then there's other pressures, right? So all of these different species are working together to evolve each other. But then humans come along and we do our own thing, and all of that is screwed up, and evolution is gone, right? Because like if you think about a megalodon, I used to love sharks when I was a kid. I thought they were awesome. I don't know if that was just me, but sharks evolved to get big into a megalodon, but then those megalodons ate too much food, and then they were like, well, there's not enough food to support my massive shark self. So then they got smaller again, right? But then when humans come along, they're interfering with that natural process, that process that took millions, maybe even a billion years.
But would you argue that we are natural?
Well, are we?
Like,
We're
what,
doing
with
this-
divine creation.
We're doing the same thing. I mean, we evolved the same way a megalodon did. We're doing the same things.
Well, yeah, that's
Except
megalodons do.
never before has there been a species that is driving as much extinction as humans are.
yeah. But I think his
Yeah.
argument is that even though that's true,
That this is the way it's supposed to happen.
it's just natural. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Which
natural.
I agree.
Which
But-
then that goes to my second, more optimistic point. And this goes back to a conversation we had before. Culturally, humans are the best thing that have ever happened to this planet because there wouldn't be a culture without humans.
Wouldn't there?
I mean, cows don't sit around and pray to God. I
We
don't
don't.
think.
Well, what's your definition of culture?
Belief, stories.
Because like, ants and bees are interesting. They like dance and shit. I feel like they might have like cultures.
No, I mean,
Not like religions per se.
Well,
but
so then to bring it to our previous conversation, and this is my ultimate response to my question. Our job as human beings are simply to feel things and to be changed by the world we witness and then to change each other because of it. The reason why I believe that is, and this maybe you could say that this is my coping mechanism, this is my own kind of like religious beliefs of divinity, but the universe without human beings goes entirely unobserved, right? Wolves aren't changed by the fact that Uranus exists or Saturn exists or physics exists. They just live. And dogs don't necessarily have this existential dread that humans carry with them. But humans do. And that's a very unique property. And I think, furthermore, with how beautiful everything is in the universe, right? The sun, the Big Bang, atoms, the way photosynthesis and cellular respiration works, math, like through all of these natural occurrences, it is our job as human beings to observe them, to feel them emotionally, and then to adapt them. So that's where you see literature. That's where you see religion. That's where you see movies, which I love. That's where you see relationship conversation. Like this conversation that we're having is a byproduct of our observation and our observance. That's the same word. Of our observation, of our observation and our ability to feel the beauty of the natural world. And I think ultimately our job is to process this world, because it would be an extreme disservice to not, because we are the only species, the only thing in this world the only thing in the whole universe as far as we know, the only thing that's ever existed before as far as we know, to be able to observe and be changed by the observance of the natural world.
Okay.
I have a question. Have
What?
you read, you want to say something first? Or?
I was just gonna say, I agree that is probably like that's what we do.
Mhm.
I don't know. As humans, that's kind of like what we do. But like, if we're talking about like on a universal scale, what is necessarily the point of doing that? Like, what's the point of observing?
That's a really great point.
Like, it's important to us,
That's a good
sure, but like, what happens when we go extinct and we have all this literature? What if nothing else evolves to read it? Then what was the point of all of our
but then,
observance?
and all of those beliefs that I have were completely changed one time when I had a conversation with Mr. Sham. And I've always been the kind of person who's very scared of dying. I don't know why. It's just something that kind of I thought about one day and I was like, that's horrifying. So I asked him last year, because he's my honors bio teacher, we're talking about evolution. I was like, how do you grapple with like existential dread? Because I think that's a very real thing that some people like deal with. Probably most people have to deal with at some point in their lives, this idea of I'm going to die, which a few of my quotes were pertaining to that. And he said, sure, the universe is massive and time is so hard to grapple with. And that could mean that nothing matters. However, on the opposite side of that coin, the world is so big, the universe is so big, time is so spread out, and you are just a small little snippet. But that means it matters exactly as much as you want it to. And you, as an emotional observing being, as a sentient being, have the ability to dictate how much your 80, 90, 100 years on this planet really matter.
Fair enough.
Interesting. Have you read Homo Deus, which is the second book?
Homo Deus, I haven't read it now.
It's a very anti-human view. Like I think Sapiens is a kind of positive book. If you read Homo Deus, you're like,
They suck.
it's like pretty negative.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's pretty dark. But anyways, I think one of the pieces you mentioned was that what Yuval defines as humanism, that in some way humans are more special than other species.
Mhm.
Which I do think in terms of our abilities and our intelligence, like sure. But I will say that I don't think that there's no central purpose for humans over any other animal. Like I feel like whatever, I think there's some universalities between us and other animals. I think a lot of religions have tried to paint humans as this magical thing,
Mhm.
but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that as a piece, right? I know some religions say that humans are the only one that can free themselves from the world and separate. I think what Hinduism talks about a lot is how we have karmas throughout our life,
Mhm.
and those karmas determine how we're reborn in the next life. whether we were born as this species or that species. And basically it's a cycle until you reach a point where you've freed yourself from all your karmas and then your soul goes on and becomes a part of God or something like that. And you go through the cycle of going through different species. But essentially, since other animals are not conscious, the human is the only one that's able to realize the fact that it has these karmas and salvate itself, basically, right? But I think a lot of the cultures that paint humans as a special thing, I think that I agree with. I think no religion has it correct, in my opinion, right? Because there's no way that I don't believe that someone somehow created all these rules, that somehow it all works out that way. Someone has seen that. But there are some certain principles that kind of made sense to me, right? Like the idea that we have a self beyond our mind, that makes sense to me, right? The idea that we can feel and experience things, that makes sense to me. And I think the fact that we have a soul that can be reborn and can maybe be a part of something bigger, some bigger power, I think that makes sense to me as well. But I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea that we are in any way different from a cow or like a wolf. You know what I mean? And maybe that's just me thinking, but I don't know. I don't see any way how we're different from other species. I don't know. What do you think about that?
You know what I'm curious about? You said like we're the only species that are like sentient, but how do we know that? Because I was looking at a National Geographic book ages ago, and it was like human intelligence versus like dolphin intelligence, and then like dolphins were like smarter than us for a while, and then I was like, we discovered fire and shit and whatever, and then we went up and dolphins like kind of stayed the same. But at what point do you think we became sentient? And if we've always been sentient, perchance, then what's to say other species aren't sentient? Because if you have a dolphin or a smart chimp that's like, I don't know, 50 IQ, 80 IQ, are you going to tell me the dumbest person on earth who's got like 50 IQ isn't sentient?
If you enjoyed that segment, then you would love the full podcast, which is out right now. Go watch it. It's right here. Like and subscribe.
Yes! Woo! A rule podcast.
Beautiful job, team.